Patel under oath. Yet the IG report details 3 separate incidents where you did exactly that. Would you like to explain the discrepancy? Patel's face reddened further. This is absurd. You're cherry-picking statements and misrepresenting. Crockett cut in, still calm. I'm quoting you directly. Your words under oath. The contrast was stark. Crockett poised and armed with evidence. Patel increasingly defensive and agitated. The audience sensed a shift. Even some of Patel's supporters looked uneasy. Then Crockett revealed another piece. The screen displayed a redacted email chain. After these violations were reported, you attempted to have the individuals who reported them reassigned. Some might call that retaliation. Gasps rippled through the room. Wallace leaned forward, clearly surprised. Patel snapped back. That is a complete fabrication. Those staffing decisions had nothing to do with any reports. But Crockett was ready, producing another document. She said, "Interesting, because I also have here the sworn affidavit of James Keller, former Deputy Director of Operations, stating that you explicitly told him, quote, 'We need to clean house of anyone who doesn't understand how things work now.' That conversation allegedly took place just 3 days after the first violation was reported. The studio fell silent. Even Wallace seemed at a loss. Patel supporters, once vocal, were now quiet, some shifting in their seats. This is character assassination," Patel sputtered, his composure gone. "You come on national television with selectively edited documents. They're not edited, Mr. Patel," Crockett interjected firmly. "They are the official record, and they tell a very different story than the one you've been telling about who is and isn't qualified to handle national security." Turning back to the audience, Crockett spoke with steady conviction. "I'm not bringing this up to score political points. I'm bringing it up because national security is too important for hypocrisy. When Mr. Patel questions my qualifications while his own record shows these issues, the American people deserve to know." The audience erupted in applause, this time broader, louder, cutting across partisan lines. Wallace, regaining composure, leaned in and asked Patel the question now hanging over the entire studio. Would he like to directly address the allegations of retaliating against staff who reported security violations? Kash Patel's face had gone from red to ashen. He adjusted his microphone, clearly buying time to collect himself. These are complex matters that can't be reduced to sound bites. National security operations involve nuanced decisions that might look questionable to outsiders without the full context. It was a non-answer, and everyone knew it. The audience's reaction, audible scoffs and murmurs, made that clear. Crockett saw her opening and delivered the final blow. "You know what, Mr. Patel? I actually agree with you on one thing. National security is nuanced and complex. That's why it requires integrity, transparency, and accountability. It requires leaders who follow the very rules they expect others to follow." She gathered her documents into a neat stack before concluding, "So when you question whether I'm qualified to discuss these matters, perhaps you should consider whether someone with documented issues following security protocols should be the one casting those stones." The audience erupted again, many rising to their feet. The camera panned across faces filled with shock, admiration, and the electricity of witnessing something truly unexpected unfold live on television. Patel sat frozen, his confident smirk gone, replaced by the tight, pained expression of a man who knew he had been outplayed. What began as his attempt to diminish a freshman congresswoman had become his own public reckoning. Wallace, steady as ever, tried to give Patel one last chance. "Mr. Patel, you have 30 seconds for a final response." Straightening his jacket, Patel attempted to salvage what dignity he could. "The American people are smart enough to see through political theater. My record of service speaks for itself, and I stand by it completely. What the Congresswoman fails to mention is the countless security threats that were neutralized under our watch, the reforms we implemented. Your time is up, Mr. Patel." Wallace cut in, turning to Crockett. "Congresswoman, your final 30 seconds. Crockett nodded, her expression solemn. "I didn't come here to attack Mr. Patel personally. I came to defend the principle that oversight matters, that following security protocols matters, regardless of political affiliation. When we make these issues partisan, America loses. So yes, I'll continue to ask tough questions about national security. Not because I lack experience, but because that's exactly what the American people elected me to do. The applause was immediate, thunderous. Even Wallace looked impressed. As the camera pulled back to a wide studio shot, the contrast was unmistakable. Crockett standing tall, documents in hand, while Patel slumped his chair, the embodiment of someone who had underestimated his opponent. The producer signaled for a commercial break, but not before capturing a final shot of the audience. Many on their feet, phones raised high, capturing a moment they knew would soon dominate social media as CNN cut to commercial, the studio buzz with electricity. Audience members furiously typed on their phones, uploading clips to Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Production assistants hurried across the set, stunned by how dramatically the segment had flipped. Patel rose quickly from his seat, ignoring a producer who tried to adjust his microphone. His face still flushed, jaw tight. He strode backstage surrounded by his team. "Get me on the phone with Greg at Fox," he muttered. "We need to get ahead of this narrative immediately." Meanwhile, Crockett remained composed, sipping water offered by an aide. Her calm contrasted Patel's frantic exit. During the break, even Wallace broke from his typically neutral demeanor. Leaning toward her, he remarked quietly, "Congresswoman, that was unexpected." She replied evenly, "Sometimes the truth is..." Outside the studio, the moment was already exploding online. Within minutes, Crockett receipts trended nationwide. Clips of the confrontation flooded every major platform, with the reveal of the Inspector General's report shared so rapidly that video servers strained under the load. Jasmine Crockett just ended Kash Patel's whole career live on CNN, read one viral tweet that amassed over 50,000 likes in under 10 minutes. Another popular post showed Patel's confident smirk at the beginning of the segment alongside his ashen face at the end. Captioned simply, "How it started versus how it ended." Conservative accounts scrambled to defend Patel, decrying ambush tactics and selective evidence. Yet even right-leaning commentators conceded he had been outmaneuvered. Patel walked into that one, admitted a prominent conservative pundit. Never underestimate your opponent. Basic strategy. When CNN returned from break, Wallace welcomed viewers back with a restrained acknowledgement. "We certainly had an illuminating discussion on national security credentials." The camera revealed Patel back in his seat, but his body language told the story. Gone was a relaxed confidence, replaced by rigid posture and a fixed, defensive stare. Wallace pressed him on the documents Crockett had presented. Patel, media training kicking in, cleared his throat. What we saw here was a classic Washington gotcha moment. The Congresswoman brought selectively edited documents without providing full context. These were administrative matters, resolved through proper channels. This is exactly the kind of political theater Americans are tired of. His tone was steadier, but the damage lingered. The audience reaction was tepid at best, some rolling their eyes at the attempted spin. Crockett waited patiently, then responded, "With respect, Mr. Patel, these documents are complete and unedited. They're publicly available through FOIA requests. They aren't classified. They are part of the public record. And the American people deserve to know the truth, especially from those who claim the authority to decide who is or isn't qualified to discuss national security." The first audience question came from a middle-aged independent voter. "Mr. Patel, given what we've just learned, do you still stand by your earlier statement that Congresswoman Crockett lacks the qualifications to discuss national security matters?" Cameras captured Patel's strained expression, a mix of anger and dawning realization that the evening had slipped completely beyond his control. His response was clipped. "My point was and remains that theoretical knowledge is different from operational experience. Everything else is a distraction." As the town hall continued, the contrast sharpened. Patel grew defensive, his answers shorter and more combative. Crockett, meanwhile, broadened her message, discussing not just documents but the broader balance between security and accountability in a democracy. By the time the hour-long segment concluded, the narrative had flipped entirely. What was meant to be Patel's chance to showcase his expertise and diminish a progressive freshman congresswoman had instead become Jasmine Crockett's breakout moment on the national stage. Headlines were drafted before the night was over. Crockett's receipts. Congresswoman comes armed with evidence in stunning exchange with former Trump official, Washington Post. From prosecutor to Congresswoman, how Jasmine Crockett's legal background led to Kash Patel's televised reckoning Politico. Patel faces backlash after confrontation with Crockett, reveals security protocol questions Reuters. Even Fox News, while sympathetic, could not ignore the story, framing it as Patel ambushed with selective documents in CNN appearance. Behind the scenes, the political ripple effects were immediate. Democratic strategists texted one another. Did you see Crockett on CNN? We need her to headline the fundraiser next month. Republican operatives were equally frantic. Patel walked into a buzzsaw. Who prepped him? This is going to run on loop all weekend. By evening, the moment had already crossed into pop culture. Late-night hosts worked the confrontation into their monologues, with one joking. Kash Patel learned an important lesson today. When you come to Congresswoman, you better not miss. And maybe check if she has a folder first. Back at her hotel, Crockett's phone buzzed relentlessly with messages, congratulations from colleagues, praise from constituents, and even nods from celebrities who shared the clip. Her social media following skyrocketed, surging by over 200,000 in just hours. One text stood out, a message from Democratic House leadership, reading simply, "Impressive work today. Let's talk about your committee assignments when you're back in D.C." For Patel, the aftermath was far less favorable. Conservative outlets that once sought him out now cooled their enthusiasm. His phone, too, buzzed nonstop, though mostly with allies asking what happened or offering unsolicited advice on damage control. Within a week, the confrontation had taken on a life of its own in political culture, an indelible moment replayed endlessly online, dissected on cable news, and cemented as the night a freshman congresswoman turned a supposed vulnerability into her greatest strength. Receipts became shorthand for coming prepared with evidence to back up claims, and soon a new political meme format emerged. Kash Patel thought he was facing an easy opponent, but instead he found himself up against Jasmine Crockett armed with documents. Almost overnight, T-shirts appeared online with the phrase, "Check the documents," printed boldly across the chest, an instant inside joke for anyone who had witnessed the confrontation unfold. For everyday Americans, the exchange resonated far beyond partisan politics. It spoke to the deep satisfaction of watching preparation triumph over bluster, of substance defeating style. In workplaces across the country, people began referencing the moment when talking about being ready for meetings or presentations. Don't Patel this. Bring your Crockett energy. The most significant impact, however, was on the two principals themselves. For Crockett, the confrontation transformed her national profile overnight. What might have taken years of gradual exposure happened in one electrifying hour on CNN. She was no longer just a promising freshman representative. She had proven herself a force to be reckoned with, someone who did her homework and couldn't be intimidated, not even by Washington veterans. For Patel, the road to repairing his reputation would be far longer. The exchange had not only undermined his carefully crafted image as a national security expert, but it also raised serious questions about his record, questions that would follow him into future appearances, job opportunities, and political ambitions. Perhaps most importantly, the moment served as a powerful reminder of what political discourse in America could still be. In an era too often defined by empty talking points and personal attacks, Crockett had shown the enduring power of coming prepared with facts. It wasn't flashy rhetoric or personal insults that shifted the power dynamic, but documented evidence presented clearly and confidently. 3 months later, when Patel was asked about the clash in another interview, he tried to dismiss it as ancient history, politically speaking. Yet the clip resurfaced again and again whenever he made definitive statements about security matters, proving that the internet's memory was far longer than political strategists might hope. Crockett, for a part, used her new platform not for personal gain, but to highlight her legislative priorities, voting rights, criminal justice reform, and government accountability. When asked about the exchange that catapulted her to national recognition, she answered with characteristic directness. It wasn't about him or me. It was about making sure the American people get the truth. That's the job, bringing receipts. The lesson for American politics was clear, even if not everyone would heed it. In an age of instant fact-checking and viral moments, authenticity and preparation still carried power. Crockett hadn't just won a political exchange. She had offered a template for how substance could prevail in a culture too often dominated by style. And somewhere across the country, in classrooms, community meetings, and workplace presentations, people opened folders full of research and evidence, channeling a little of that same Crockett energy, ready to speak truth with receipts to back it up. This wasn't just a story of a political confrontation. It was a reminder of what political discourse could and should be: fact-based, informed, and accountable to the truth. Don't miss our next breakdown of Washington's most explosive confrontations. Hit subscribe now and turn on notifications so you never miss these crucial political moments as they happen. And drop a comment below with your thoughts on Crockett's takedown. Was it the most prepared political response you've ever seen? See you in the next video.